eyes are open, I can see you now. Your heart of mercy pouring over me. You would call a sinner to bring you glory. I'm amazed that you would want me, and I'm amazed. All I can say is I really love you. Oh, 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 I really love you. Up from the ashes, you turned my rags to robes, rewrote my story. You broke my shame. Your heart of mercy pouring over me. You would call a sinner to bring you glory. I'm amazed that you would want me. I'm amazed, and all I can say is I really love you. Oh, 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 I really love you. All I want is you. There's nothing else but you. All I want is you. There's nothing else but you. And all I want is you. There's nothing else but you. And all I want is you. There's nothing else but you. I really love you. Oh, 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 I really love you. And all I want is you. There's nothing else but you. And all I want is you. There's nothing else but you. I really love you. Oh, I really love you. Oh, I really love you. Oh, I really love you.
John 14:13-14 says, "And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." So let whatever name of Jesus you need to speak over your life today, just speak his name. Adonai, Elohim, the great I am, lives in me. El Shaddai, you are
I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings, no. 'Cause Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you, nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you, nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do.
Have you ever really prayed that? Have you ever really thought that God, I don't need anything else. I don't have to have a house. Like my car doesn't work, that's okay. My relationships don't work like I thought they were going to. My job is falling apart. You know what? None of that really matters because all I need is you. There's another song that we sing that says, when I have you, I have everything. And if I don't have you, I don't have anything. See, sadly, there'll be a lot of people, in fact, millions and millions and millions of people will find out the moment that they pass away that there was only one thing that mattered. And it wasn't your job, and it wasn't your hobbies, and it wasn't, honestly, even your family to a degree. It was, did you know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior? That's all that's going to matter one day. You know what the world wants you to think about? Everything else. The devil wants you to think about everything else. And one day, we're going to realize there's only one thing that matters. I want us to go back in there. I want us to sing, I Just Want You and Nothing Else. And I really want you to mean it. If you don't mean it, just don't sing it, all right? If you're just sitting there, you're just like, I just don't know, then don't sing it. Let's sing it. I just want you. And let's really mean it as a prayer this morning. Sing it out this morning. I just want you and nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. With, and I don't know what you're hanging on to, and I don't know that one thing that's just keeping you down and keeping you out and just keeping you from really experiencing His presence even today. But I just want you to know this morning, it's not worth it. What you're holding to is not, that addiction's not worth it. Ask some people who've been set free from addiction, it's not worth it. He's the only thing that matters. Don't find that out too late. Don't find that out too late. Nothing else will do. I hope that that's your prayer this morning, because that's our prayer for you today on this amazing Labor Day weekend, Sunday morning. This is our favorite day of the week. We love to come and worship with our church family. We have some awesome stuff happening today. If you don't know this, we have 3 water baptisms. Come on. Yeah. And we are super excited about that, and we're going to be doing that in the breezeway between services, so hang out, don't leave. It's a nice, wonderful fall morning today here in Louisiana. It's actually September. It feels like September in Louisiana, but we're just so glad you came out to worship with us. Can we welcome in the Hub this morning? The Hub is in the house behind me. They're helping us out, giving us a little more room. And so we're excited to have them in here this morning worshiping with us. So thank you if you're watching from home. We're glad to have you in the house as well. I want you to go find 3 people, give them a high five, and say, I hope you put deodorant on today. Go tell them.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeremy, and I have the honor to serve with our production team. I'm so glad that you're here this morning. Our vision here at WRC is to help others encounter Jesus. You can help us do that by keeping the worship service as distraction-free as possible. We love your kids so much that we have created a service just for them during both services. This is a fun environment to teach your kids about Jesus in a way that they can understand. If you have a child from birth to 5th grade, take advantage of this experience we have created just for them. We want to keep your kids safe, so make sure you have your security tag when you pick up your child. If you're looking for a way to get plugged in here at WRC, Growth Track is your next step. Growth Track consists of 4 consecutive steps that take place every Sunday during the 11 o'clock service. We meet in the Growth Track room next to the Hub. These 4 steps will help you get connected and find the perfect dream team for you. Now, let's get ready for the message.
All right, well, we are finally in our end time series, and I'm excited to share this series with you. I've I've been kind of putting some stuff together for a little while now, and it's not something I talk about a lot because if I'm just honest with you this morning, I think we can get hung up on the end times and be so worried about looking up that we stop looking out. I'm going to say that again. We can get so hung up on looking up and waiting for Jesus that we stop living our life. And so I want to share some things with you. This is going to be a 4 or 5 part series. I'm not sure how far we'll go, but I definitely have 4 messages laid out for you. And so today's message is a sign of the times. And so I want to share with you some things that the Bible tells us to look for the end times. And so there's 3 things that I see in Matthew 24 that we're going to talk about this morning. But something I want you to catch, I'm going to say it now. You're going to see it in the message, and I'm going to say it at the end. Don't panic, all right? Don't freak out. If you're a freaker outer, you're gonna have to just watch with some grace and just realize, hey, look, I am not gonna go home and start digging a big old tunnel in my backyard, all right? And get a bomb, what they call it, a bomb shelter ready. And I'm not gonna go and stash up 3 years worth of supplies. Look, I just want you to know that Jesus is still on the throne, all right? So don't let these things I'm gonna share with you scare you. I'm not even getting to the scary stuff today. That's next week, okay? So today, but actually it's in 2 weeks because next week I'm talking about the rapture. But today I want to talk about the signs of the time. So you're going to hear it in his message. Jesus is very clear. Don't panic. All right. So you're going to hear me say that. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. The things that and the crazy thing is the stuff that we're going to see in Scripture. You're already seeing. So this is not something that's yet to come because I don't see anything in the Scriptures that hasn't been fulfilled yet. And so I'm just saying we could start looking up if we want to, but we still have people at work. We still have people in our homes. We still have people in our neighborhood that need Jesus, and that has to be our focus. We have to focus on them needing Jesus and not us just sitting around waiting for him to show back up. And so don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. I'm excited about this series because the Bible, actually a third of the Bible is prophecy. About 30% is prophecy. And so 30% of the Bible is written about what hasn't happened yet. And so that's important for us to talk about, that it's prophecy. And that's the thing about prophecy is it hasn't happened. So it's kind of hard to define. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. The book of Revelation it's just not something you just want to go and have a daily reading of and just sit there and go, well, I'm so full today after reading Revelation. Because you'll leave Revelation probably mostly confused. And so it's not something that we talk about a lot. I would challenge you not to get too hung up on it, but just know that you have a life to live, and God's called you to your neighborhood. He's called you to your job. He's called you to this church, and we need to keep living our life that way. And so don't panic, don't freak out. But these are some signs of the times, and I see 3 things in Matthew 24. In Matthew 24, Jesus is on the Mount of Olives, and so he's actually telling them, the disciples, he's like, look, no stone's going to be left unturned. It's going to be, all this is going to fall apart. And so his disciples start asking him, okay, what is that going to look like? How are we going to know that time is near? And so Jesus starts off in Matthew 24, verse 3. We didn't read the first 2, but he just says, hey, there's not going to be one stone left on top of another. Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives, and his disciples came to him privately and said, tell us when all this will happen. Well, he's talking about when is it all going to fall apart? When is the temple going to be destroyed? When is there not going to be one stone left on another? They said, what sign will signal your return and the end of the world? And a lot of translations say the end of the age, the end of time, the end of what we know here in our world, right? In the United States, in Moss Bluff, America, and Calcasieu Parish. So what is it going to look like when all this comes to fruition? What's it going to look like? What are some signs of the time? And so Jesus, the first thing when he said this, the first thing he says, and I want to give this to you this morning because we need to kind of wrap what I'm about to say around everything I'm about to tell you. Here's what he tells him. This is the first thing Jesus answers is, don't let anyone mislead you. So Jesus is very clear. He says, don't get hung up in a bunch of rhetoric. Don't get hung up in a bunch of so-and-so said this and so-and-so said this. Listen, there was a book out. I think it was 88 Reasons Why Jesus was coming back in 1988. Is that right? That was 1988. So 88 reasons why Jesus was coming back in 1988. And listen, people started selling their houses. They started quitting their jobs. Can you imagine walking into your job? Be like, I quit. And then they say, why? Because Jesus is coming back. I read a book. He's coming back. Can you imagine what's going through your boss's mind that Jesus is coming back, so you're quitting your job? That's a lot of people did that. A lot of people sold their stuff, and I mean, a lot of people got juked on that one. But Jesus is very clear. Nobody's going to know the hour. All right, nobody's going to know the exact time. But he says, don't let people mislead you, because the end times is going to have it's going to have, I think it's going to have 3 themes. Here's the first one. It is going to be a theme of deception. The end will be a time of deception. So I want you to get that this morning. Jesus says, don't be misled. Why? Because there is going to be a time of deception. There's going to be a lot of people getting deceived. There's going to be a lot of people that get misled and go down the wrong road. That word for misled means to take you off the path you're supposed to be on. You ever follow somebody? I was in a funeral procession, and I didn't really know the person that had passed away, but I knew the family, and so I wasn't really familiar with where they were going to bury her because she was going to be somewhere in Sulphur, and you don't go to Sulphur on accident. You know what I mean? Like, I don't just pass gravesides and Sulphur because I live in Moss Bluff, and that's like 100 miles away from here. It feels like. It's not really. If you go to a Westlake group, you're amazing. We love you. We'll pay for your gas mileage, okay? But Sulphur, hey, look, since I-10 got fixed, it's way better to go to Sulphur than it used to be. But we were heading towards Sulphur, and the guy just says, okay, follow me. And like, okay, he said, just follow. Actually, the director said, follow the cops in front of you, which I've done a bunch of funerals. I know what it's like. So if you don't know, it's the cops and then the pastor and then the family and then the hearse and then everybody else. So I'm like second. I'm behind the cops, and everybody else is following me. Well, I have two cops in front of me, and one goes right and one goes left. Please, Jesus, I need you right now. I just flipped the coin. That's all I could do. I had a split-second decision, and I knew which way Sulphur was, and I went that way, and praise Jesus, I followed the right guy. But have you ever been following behind somebody or two people, and one went one way and one went the other, and you know which way to go? My dad used to have a hat and had two bills, and it says, I'm their leader. Which way did they go? And that's how I feel as a parent sometimes. That's how I feel as a pastor sometimes. But what he's saying is don't be misled. Don't be led off the path. Don't be led down a path that you're not supposed to be on. And he tells us why we're supposed to be careful of this deception. Jesus says, for many will come in my name. They're going to come in my name claiming that I am the Messiah, and they will deceive many. He said, many are going to come in my name, and they're actually going to deceive a whole bunch of people because they're going to act like they're from me, and they're just not. Listen, there's a lot of false prophets in the church today. Listen, you can't look like the world and lead the church. You just can't do it. You can't look like the world and be a Christ follower too. You just can't. And they're trying to have both, and you just can't have both. And he says you got to be careful because they're going to come in my name and they're going to deceive many. And the Bible is very clear. If that is something you're responsible for deceiving people, I don't look forward to being with you when Judgment Day falls, because you're responsible for the people that you deceive. You're responsible for the people that you lead. In fact, the Bible says not many of you should be teachers. Why? Because there's going to be a heavier weight placed on you. There's a bigger expectation because you can mislead people. Now, is there grace? Absolutely there's grace. Listen, y'all, I preached stuff 10 years ago when we started this thing that I don't even believe anymore. Why? Because I've tried to grow. I try to keep growing. And so there's going to be some grace. He's not saying that you're not ever going to be wrong, but there are people who deliberately mislead people. And so I hope that you have grace with me. I mean, I have grace with you. That's the only way a pastor can be a pastor, is to have grace. It's the only way you can have people in your life is grace. You can't have friends and family without grace. People without grace live in mountains alone. Okay, that's what people without grace do. You can't be around people without grace. We talked about that in Big Huddle this morning. So he says there's going to be some people who deliberately deceive. There's going to be people who they don't know what they're doing. But I'm just going to tell you that the danger in deception is that it's deceptive. I know that's very simple, but I'm going to say it again. The danger with deception is that it's very deceptive. And here's what I have found about people who deceive other people. For the most part, they really, truly believe it. They really, truly believe it. Listen, there is a deception. There is a confusion about gender today. There's 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kids whose parents say, if you're a boy and you want to be a girl, let's just go to the doctor and get that taken care of. That's happening today a lot. You know what the danger in that is? They really believe that that's okay. They're not, I wouldn't call them evil people. They just really think that they want their kid to be who they want to be. Listen, at 7 years old, I thought girls stunk. I didn't like girls. Now, fast forward 5 years, all of a sudden, I want to sit next to one. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you had to do the Christian hand holding. Anybody? You had to get crossing your arms, but you really like touching fingers. Like when I became a teenager, all of a sudden girls didn't stink like they used to. Can you imagine a 7-year-old? A 7-year-old boy does not like girls. And if a parent goes, oh, you don't like girls and you're supposed to be one, there's something wrong with that. And guess who's responsible for their kids? They are. Now, are they evil people? I don't think they're evil on purpose. I don't think they're doing this. They truly, really believe that they're going to do what's best for their kid. I don't think they hate their kid. They've been deceived. They've been deceived. Because here's what I know about my God. When he created a boy, he did not make a mistake. And this, I'm not getting political here. I'm just telling you, the power of deception is powerful because it's deceptive. And you got to be careful who you hang around with. And here's why. Corinthians tells us this. Don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Yeah, there's a deception going on today that you can just be who you want to be and act like how you want to act. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's connected to the school system. And we had a good long conversation, and we started talking about school. And he made a statement that kind of concerned me a little bit. And he's been doing this for decades. He says, if something doesn't change, the public school system will be obsolete in 5 years. You know why? Because the kids have the power. Some of you teachers, I don't know how you do it. You send a kid to the principal's office, and they come back, and the parent shows up, and all of a sudden the kid has the power. There's something wrong with that. So there's a deception going on all the way down to the middle school, elementary school age. It's deceptive. It's so dangerous. He said, be careful who you hang around. Be careful who you hang around with because you might change the way you start believing. I know people, and you know people started hanging out with the wrong crowd. All of a sudden, they started thinking like them. My dad used to say it like this. You hang with the dogs, you're probably going to get fleas. I don't like fleas. Fleas itch. I don't like ticks either, so I just stay away from the dogs. So it's going to be a time of deception. He says, don't be misled. Don't go down that path. There's going to be many that mislead you. Here's the second thing that I see in the Matthew 24, and that is going to be the end will be a time of destruction. There's going to be destruction at the end times, right? We're seeing that happen today. In fact, he goes on to say this, if you keep reading in Matthew 24, verse 6. He says, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars. Here you see it there. Don't panic. 3 words, but don't panic. But don't panic. You're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place. Y'all, I don't want wars to happen. I don't want to see bloodshed. I absolutely don't. But if it's the path to get Jesus back, should we try to pray and stop it? I want Jesus to come back. So he says there's going to be wars, there's going to be rumors of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. So these are just the beginnings, right? And the second you'll see it's called birth pains. This is the beginning of the end. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the end. And so Ezekiel has a vision. And so Ezekiel begins to see the end. All right, Ezekiel begins to see the end of time. Excuse me. And he begins to talk about something called Gog and Magog. All right, so if you're not familiar with Gog and Magog, Gog is the leader of Magog, and Magog in our today's time is Russia. All right. So let's just get that clear. Magog is Russia, so Gog would be Putin today. Now, if that changes over hands, then Putin's not Gog, somebody else is. I'm not saying Gog, G-O-G. All right. So he begins to talk about Gog and Magog. And so God begins to reveal this to Ezekiel. And so he goes into Ezekiel 38. Here's what he says. He says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. When Gog invades the land of Israel, talking about, and today it would be Putin. When he invades the lands of Israel, my fury will boil over. Now, again, Ezekiel's getting a vision of the end times, all right? So this is talking about the end. And so he's talking about Gog and Magog. So he's saying Gog is going to lead a battle into Israel. In fact, he says earlier, and we'll probably talk more about this in the next few weeks, but he actually says that God himself is putting a hook in Gog's mouth and leading him where he wants him to go. In other words, it ain't even Putin's decision to do these things, or whoever that person might be. What he's saying is, God is saying, this is the end times, this is what has to happen, and I am going to cause you to do these things. That's really what he's saying. So he says, when Gog, not if, but when it happens, he invades Israel, my fury will boil over. So you might say, well, why? Why in the world would you attack Israel? They're just one little, and if you look on the map, y'all, you have to like squint. My age, I have to squint to see Israel. It is so, as we were saying in Louisiana, titani, all right? It's a little shy cunt. It's a little shy baby. Like it's a little bitty. Like you have to really strain to look at it. There's these massive countries all around it. But you don't mess with Israel. So why in the world would they even go? They're just trying to be them. They're just trying to have their own country. Well, power is one of them, but one is resources. Because it goes on to say in that passage that they're going to go get the resources. Excuse me. The devil don't want y'all hearing what I got to say. So here's what I found out. In June, they made some discoveries in Israel. Now, Israel doesn't have a ton of like natural resources, right? I mean, there's no real reason that you would look at Israel and go, okay, I'm going to take that country because they got what I want. They don't have a ton. They have some things, but not like enough to go in and take over and like it make you, a millionaire or billionaire. But here's what they discovered back in June. Check this out. 8 billion cubic meters of natural gas was just discovered off the coast of Israel. 8 billion cubic meters of natural gas. They just discovered this. That's actually in Israel's territory. So now we have motive, all right? Now we have motive for them to go in and take over Israel because they have some resources that Israel has just discovered that they can go take. So now I'm not saying that this is happening in this moment. It's not. All I'm saying is this, I'm looking to the future, right? So if I had to pick a reason for them to go in, this very clearly could be it. But God begins to he keeps talking about what that's going to look like. He says, in my jealousy and blazing anger, when this happens, I promise a mighty shaking in the land of Israel on that day when Gog invades Israel. So he says, my jealousy is going to rage. And then he says this, all living things, the fish in the sea, the birds of the sky, the animals of the field, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people on earth will quake in terror at my presence. Don't mess with Israel. In fact, I would say stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. So he says, now, I can't think of anything he didn't mention here. When the bass know that God is for real, the white perch you caught last week, if they were still alive and you didn't eat them, they would know, they would quake in the terror of God's presence. The squirrels in your yard, they're going to know. This is the globe. We're talking about the globe. Everyone will quake, and everything will quake in the presence, and there will be terror there. He says the mountains will be thrown down, and the cliffs will crumble, and walls will fall into the earth. Watch this. I will summon the sword against all of the hills of Israel, says the sovereign Lord. Your men will turn their swords against each other. That sounds like that's happened before. Go back and read the Bible and see how many times the enemy turned on itself and ended up killing each other. He says the power is going to be so huge, the confusion is going to be so massive that they're actually going to start killing each other. Because listen, God is God. He ain't got to shoot an arrow. He can just turn enemy against enemy, and they start wiping each other out. And then he keeps going. Listen to what he says. Look at the next verse. This is verse 22 in Ezekiel 38. He says, I will punish you and your armies with disease and bloodshed, and I will send torrential rain, hailstones, fire, and burning sulfur. He says, listen, you're not going to be able to escape it. What he's saying is, God's saying, God himself is going to defend Israel. Stand with Israel. He says, I am going to actually, you don't even have to pick up a bow. You don't have to pick up a rifle. You don't have to get in a tank. He says, I'm going to defend Israel myself. I don't want to be in that fight. I don't even want to be around there. God says, look, it's going to be so massive, the earth is going to know that I am God. If we go back to Matthew, we'll continue to see this battle situation going on. Look what he says. He says, nation, this is again the end times, nation will go against war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. Now, nation against nation, the actual word there, the original language is the word ethnos, which we get ethnic groups. What he's really saying is ethnic group will go against ethnic group. Does that sound familiar today? We have pitted each other against men and women. We have pitted each other against the color of our skin, against our nationality. Listen, we have pitted each other against nation and nation. And they said they will go to war against each other, and kingdom will go against kingdom. And then he mentions famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. So I'm going to give you a couple of charts this morning, or actually one chart I'm going to show you. I don't have time to show all of them. But I'm going to show you one chart this morning of the natural disaster chart over the last 100 years. So this stopped in 2019, so we don't get Laura and Beta and all the other ones that came through. I think we had like 117 named storms last year or whatever, but I don't know if that was many, but it felt like 1,000, all right? When you just get back from a Cat 4 hurricane and just about took the roof off your house, or did take the roof off your house, and then you find yourself the next week packing for another one coming, It's time to move from Louisiana, okay? My brother moved down here from Memphis about 2017, and that was when the flood happened and hurricanes started rolling through. And he said, man, you got to be mean to live down here. I said, that's right. You got to be mean to live in Louisiana. But just natural disaster after natural disaster. And look, and I'm just going to tell you, I've watched it on TV. I've seen other areas get smashed. I'm like, man, I really hate that for them. But when you go through it, it makes you appreciate what people go through. And some of y'all lost everything. Look, I ain't sitting there complaining because we didn't lose that much. Y'all lost everything, and some of y'all still don't have it back. But natural disaster after natural disaster. So here's a chart of the natural disasters. This is from 1900 to 2019. And so you'll see down here at 0, it starts. Now, obviously, they didn't track much in the 1800s, or we don't know if they did. So you see this little trend up. And then in the 1970s, it starts going up. So this is all natural disasters. I would say that the natural disasters has increased. Man, in the last 100 years. I'm going to have to sign language the rest of it. That's a big increase. And so what he's saying is what I want to show you is it's happening. I think the birth pains are real. I think it's really happening. And so that's a big deal. Then he mentions famines, all right? So he doesn't just talk about natural disasters or earthquakes. He actually talks about famines. This is a picture that was taken in a store not too long ago. This was probably about 3 or 4 months ago. And as you can see, there's some stuff missing, all right? And you know, you've been to the store recently, there's some shelves that's just empty. Now, is it as bad as it is in other places? Absolutely not. Like, we have not seen that here. But I just want you to know that there's a famine going on. He didn't say it was going to hit everybody. He just says in many parts of the world they're going to have that. Listen, Ukraine is considered the breadbasket of Europe. It's considered the breadbasket of Europe. Most of the grain that they produce in Europe comes out of Ukraine. In fact, some of the stats are really kind of honestly a little bit scary. Look at this. Ukraine exported up to 6 million tons of grain a month before Russia invaded the country on February 24th. But the recent month, the volunteers have fallen. Not the volunteers. Thank you, volunteers, for serving. You're on my heart today. The volumes have fallen to about 1 million tons. It went from 6 million tons to 1 million tons. If that doesn't compute with you, that just means less grain, less flour, less bread. And the trickle-down effect that's going to hit. And it's already hitting. In fact, for a long time, I think they still are rationing flour over there because they just can't get it. Because the farms that were cropping everything or planting crops and farming these things, they got tanks rolling through them. They're destroying, and they have to stop They have to stop farming and go fight. And so even in America, though, we're seeing some crazy stuff happen in America. I had to go do a little bit of research on this, but I found this to be true as best I can tell. More than 20 food facilities have burned in America in 2022. Get your tinfoil hat on, all right? Y'all ready? We have a staff member here that has a tinfoil hat, but we don't talk about him too much. His last name rhymes with Rafin. But anyway. No, I'm not one of those guys, okay? I'm not. I don't think that a normal human being would go set fire to food-producing facilities just to be mean. Now, maybe I'm just a nice guy and I underestimate people. It could actually be happening. Some of y'all have hidden video you're trying to show me. As soon as this service is over, you're going to be pulling up YouTube videos and showing me of the hidden camera where Biden himself rolled into a place and started lighting it on fire. Get out of here with that, okay? He didn't say it didn't say everywhere. It says many parts of the world are going to see it. I'm not saying that we have a famine. I think there's going to be a form of famine that comes to America, but don't panic. If you know where you're going, it don't matter anyway, does it? In fact, I just want to go back to that verse. But don't panic. These things must take place. This is important. These things must happen. These things must take place. This is not something that may or may not happen. It has to happen. Famines have to happen. Wars have to happen. Earthquakes have to happen for Jesus to come back. But don't panic. Listen, it is going to be a time of destruction. It is going to be a time of deception. Just know that. There's going to be a lot of deception, and we're seeing it. I'm going to go back to that just for a moment. But we are seeing deception happen. And what they have found, and it probably didn't take a genius to figure this out, if you can deceive a child, they stay deceived as they become adults. And I'm not going to get political here, but I just want to share one thought with you. I'm going to my office after this and locking the door, so please don't come find me. So, no, I'm picking. So, I'm going to talk about climate change just for a second, okay? What did it used to call it? It used to be called something worse. Global warming. Okay, global warming is now climate change, which is, okay, anyway. So let me just give you my opinion about climate change, and that is I think that there's something going on. Do I think it's going to destroy the earth? No, I think my God's still on the throne. That's what I think. But I think we cannot be stupid about some stuff either. You know what I mean? I don't think we just go start throwing oil in the ocean just because we can. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that that's okay. So not that would affect climate change, I guess. But anyway, my point in that is this. Used to, that was something that a few people believed. And then more people believed it, and then more people believed it, and then people started running on campaigns on it. And I don't know if you know this, but now you can go to college and do studies on climate change. Like, you can actually get a degree on climate change. Now, you see that shift from maybe it is, maybe it isn't, to I'm going to get a degree in it? And that's just one thing that has transformed over the last several years. But when you train a child up in a certain way, when they get older, they still believe that way. Look, think about elephants. Not that your children are elephants, but it just makes me think about this. If you see a big elephant, they'll have like a little stick in the ground with a rope tied to it, and there's a big old 10-ton elephant just standing there looking around. He can pull that up if he wants to. But you know what they did? They drilled a rod like 10 feet in the ground when he was a baby, and he couldn't pull it up, so now he thinks that he can't pull it up. It's just a little stick in the ground. I just want you to know the church has been deceived, and it's just a stick in the ground. Our young ones have been deceived. Listen, and I'm just going to, if you have a problem with millennials and you're a Gen X, guess who raised the millennials? Hello. I got no problem. I think millennials are some of the hardest working people. I'm telling you, I really believe that. I think this generation is going to be incredible. But if you have a problem with it, maybe it's some of our training techniques. I can remember, listen, you know, the whole everybody gets a trophy thing. That was not a thing when I was growing up. You didn't get a trophy just for showing up. I don't know if I'm proud of that or a little sad because I wanted a trophy. I wanted a doggone trophy. That's what I wanted. I can remember vividly. So we played rec league baseball, and so there'd be like 10 or 12 teams in the rec league, and so I was probably 9 or 10 years old. And at the end of the season, what you would do is you'd have a pool party in the public pool for all the teams. So I don't know if y'all remember that, but that was back in the day, man. That was the good stuff. Like, you'd wear your uniform, you know, or you'd have your shirt on, but you have your swim trunks on. But what it was is it was an award ceremony, and the first, second, third place teams got trophies. You know what the rest of us did? We watched. You know what I wanted when it was over? A doggone trophy. That's what I wanted. So guess what I tried next year? I tried a little harder. But that generation, the generation of Gen Xers who didn't get the trophy, now raise kids who go get their own trophies made at the trophy shop and present it to them in their bedroom because they showed up to practice 3 times. There is a shift from generation to generation. Am I telling you it's horrible that everybody gets a trophy? That's not what I'm saying, but I'm telling you it takes the hard work drive out of your gut. I'll tell you that for sure. If stuff's just handed to you, there's no reason to work hard. But my point in all this is to say when we set those mindsets in a generation of 9, 10, 12, 15-year-olds, guess what? They become parents who live in that same kind of mindset. You have to break those mindsets off because it's a deception. We can be deceived very easily. But he says, don't panic when all these things happen. Don't panic about deception. Don't panic about destruction. It has to happen. In fact, he tells us this, in wrapping up this part of this passage, he says, but all this is only the first birth pains with more to come. What he's saying is this is the signs of the times. This is the beginning of the end, so to speak. This is what it's going to look like. And I haven't even gotten into the rapture and tribulation. We'll talk about that in the next couple of weeks, and I'll tell you what I think about when the church is going to be raptured. And I hope you'll make it back for all these weeks because I think it's kind of interesting. Doesn't mean that we get to sit around looking up. We have to still keep looking out and helping people. But he says there's more stuff to come. Don't freak out. But here's the next theme that I see, and that is the end will be a time of discrimination. Not just destruction and not just deception, but discrimination. In fact, he goes on to say this. He says, then you will be arrested. He's talking to the disciples. You'll be arrested and persecuted and killed, and you will be hated all over the world because you are my followers. Not because you're mean, not because you're cruel, not because you hurt somebody, not because you said the wrong thing typically about one thing. It's because you are following me. That's why you're going to be persecuted. That's why you're going to be killed. That's why you're going to be arrested. Discrimination. Hey, listen, the church is anti-society today. We used to be subculture, right? We used to be kind of above culture, and so the culture looked to the church. Then we became subculture, and the world looks down at the church. Now we're anti-culture. It's the church against the world. That's how they see it. There's going to be persecution. And then he says this, watch this. He says, and many will turn away from me and betray me and hate each other. So when you get pressure on you, when pressure happens, you have a couple of choices. You can make the right decisions, or you can turn on your fellow brothers and sisters. He says there's going to be a lot of people who betray each other and hate each other because of the pressure that discrimination puts on. And I don't mean just discrimination in the church. Listen, this discrimination globally, and it's getting worse, all right? It's getting worse. And then he says this, he keeps going, he's going to kind of reiterate what he said earlier. There'll be many false prophets and that will appear and deceive many people. Look at this next verse. Sin will be rampant everywhere. Y'all, sin is everywhere. You don't think there is? Scroll through social media for about 45 seconds and see what kind of ads pop up on your phone. You don't think sin's everywhere? Just well, you probably shouldn't do that. Okay, so I was chatting with a person today, or not today, it was this weekend, and we were just talking about, again, kids in today's society, and I found this out about Sam Houston. I don't know if you know this, but they actually track certain things. They're actually tracking and looking for certain things like alcohol. Like not just kind of like looking at it, but they're actually trying to figure out which kids are bringing alcohol to Sam Houston High School. Amongst other things. And I'm just talking about this one because that's the one I'm connected to. That's the one that I know. It's in your school too, unless you're homeschooled. Then it's probably hidden, you know. Yeah, the pressure that these kids have, it breaks my heart. The pressure to be perfect all the time. The pressure to match the Instagram pictures of my best friend because they just want an amazing trip. They just want a trophy. Their parents might have bought it for them. I don't know. But we are constantly, and we do it too, we compare our behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reel. You can't live like that. No wonder the suicidal rate is so sky high. But you can't get off social media because then you're disconnected. So they got you. Listen, there's sin everywhere. And social media, listen, it is not a safe place to be most of the time. Sin's rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. There's going to be people who lose their love for one another, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. Now, this word for saved doesn't necessarily mean salvation. It means those who get through this time, this tough time, that toward the end of the age, you're going to be saved. In other words, you're going to be alive still, right? You're still going to make it. So it's important. Look at verse 14. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world so that all nations will hear it, and then the end will come. He said the word is going to be preached to all nations. That's why technology is so important. Listen, we actually, if you run some reports just at the World Redemption Center, we have people in other countries watching our feed. My dad's ministry, we have connections to probably 20 or 30 different countries. They get on our Facebook page or check things out or watch videos. The global, it's amazing. Technology is amazing. The name of this church is World Redemption Center. He says we're going to preach to the whole world. We have a young couple right now in Honduras. We're going to be there for a month, teaching the gospel to the whole world. So what do? The end is coming. It has to happen. But don't panic. Please don't go home and get a backhoe out and start digging a big old hole in your backyard and burying cans of food, okay? That's not what I'm telling you to do this morning. I just want you to know that the end, I believe, is very close. The end is near. I think it's very, very close. But I got two things to give you, then I'm going to close with this. I'm going to close with these thoughts right here. And I want you to really, if you didn't hear anything else I said, I want you to hear what I'm about to tell you. Because our danger is, what we tend to do when we find out stuff like this is just go, oh, well, ain't no point in me buying a house. Ain't no point in me getting married. Ain't no point in me having kids. No, have kids. Get married. Wait, let me say it backwards. Get married. Have kids. I said that wrong. Buy a house. Go to school. Get that degree. Don't stop. Don't stop living your life because the end is coming. The end was coming the whole time. So I got 2 thoughts for you, and I hope that you'll take this to heart this morning. That is simply this. Plan like Jesus is coming back in 100 years. Buy a house. Get married. Have kids. But live like he's coming back today. Plan like he's coming back in 100 years. Just live your life. Don't stop living your life. Don't go climb up in a mountain and become a hermit. Keep loving on people. Keep showing up to work. Keep training up your children in the way they should go so that when they're older, they will not depart from it. Keep loving people. Keep having grace on people. Plan like Jesus is coming back in 100 years, but live like he's coming back today. Live like he's coming back today. Tell that neighbor about Jesus. Show him the love of Jesus. You don't have to hit him over the head with the Bible. Just show him his love. Give some grace to that coworker that nobody likes. Train up your children in how they should love God and give to his kingdom and serve, and give their time and give their finances and just pour into the next step of kingdom. Live like he's coming back today, but plan like he's coming back in 100 years. Keep living your life. Keep doing those things, and God will bless it. Don't crawl in a hole. Don't freak out. Do not panic. This stuff has to happen. And I don't know about you. It's hard not to look up because I'm waiting, and I'm ready. I hope you are too, because when he shows up, there's only going to be one thing that matters. Not how big your house is, not how much money is in your account, not how many highlight reels that your son has on the football team or baseball team. You know what matters? Do you know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? That's all that's going to matter. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I hope you'll settle that today. If you've been on the fence about that, and you're just like, man, I said yes to him, but I've not taken next steps. I haven't been water baptized. Hey, we got water warmed up and ready to go for you. We got extra shorts and towels just for you. Maybe here today you say, I haven't done that at all. I need to talk to somebody about my next steps with Jesus. We want to do that. We want to do that with you. Listen, we want to live like he's coming back today. We want to plan like he's coming back in 100 years. Keep taking next steps. Get into a life group. Get water baptized. Start serving on a team. Go through Growth Track. Let's make a difference where we are. Let's be difference makers. He's coming back, but stop looking up and start looking out. Let's pray. Father, I thank you this morning that you are God of your word. Father, you keep your word. And God, I thank you that today that even though this is a time of destruction, a time of deception, Father, even though those things are happening, it's a time of discrimination. God, we've seen videos of people who pronounce the name of Jesus dying, being beheaded in other countries because they said Jesus was their Savior. God, we've seen kids in America with school shootings stand up and say, I believe in Jesus, and get shot dead. God, discrimination is here. Destruction is here. Deception is here. God, help us to plan like you're coming back in 100 years, but live like you're coming back today. I pray for those in this room right now who they don't know you, Father. They're just not sure. That today they would talk to a prayer team member. God, today they would say yes to you. And God, if you call them to, that today they would step into the baptism waters and say yes to the next steps with you. God, I pray that no one leads the same way they came. We love you and we praise you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Stand with me this morning. I'm going to ask our prayer team to come down front. Again, we would love to pray with you. Maybe you're confused about something I shared, or maybe you're a little bit scared. We want to pray with you. We have a team down front. We'd love to pray with you this morning and just pour out on you and just love on you. So we have a team down front. We'd love to talk to you if you need that this morning. We'd love to do that. Don't forget this morning we have water baptism in the breezeway. Please hang out for that, and we're going to celebrate with them. You guys have an amazing day. We'll see you all right back here next Sunday, 9:30 and 11 o'clock.